All right, we'll start as soon as Manu stops talking. All right. So we have Ben here monitoring our Twitter account, just in case there are real-time questions. This is really anonymous. Ask us any. Hi, I'm Andre, and I've been using for 7 years. And even distributing on occasion. So this is a time where we get to sort of get a lot of stuff out of our chests. A lot of the great players of D are here in this room. And it's just a great time to touch base, kind of, have a collective hug of sorts. So just let's move forward. Ask us anything. Chuck, destroy.
Just a quick thing. I mentioned earlier this morning about two of the things that my students have issues with, and I realize that we'll talk about that later maybe. The IDE and the documentation. There's one more I forgot to mention, and that is the fact that D has changed so rapidly that people are reluctant to use it because it's not converging to a stable version. And so I'm wondering if you could comment on that.
Okay, I believe it is converging to a stable version. We're very resistant to changes that break things. Generally, I sort of provoke some ire by not wanting to change things that would break existing code, and other people argue, but that existing code can be easily changed. Well, I understand even though the changes are technically easy to make, there are major irritation to do it. So we really are reluctant to change things. Things we do change tend to be things where the code is just wrong, and the compiler shouldn't accept it, and the language shouldn't accept it. And if it's a change that will move us toward our goals of verification, provable memory safety, we feel compelled we have to make those changes and disallow some old practices that just don't fit with the way D ought to be. I'd like to reach the point where we don't have to do any of that anymore. And also, a lot of our changes, what we like to do is code that didn't used to even compile or work anymore now works. That's a kind of a change that we love to make. Making things better with inference of immutability, for example, is making code that used to not work without cast, not work unless you cast it. Now it'll work without cast. So although it's a change, and it doesn't even add any new syntax or anything, it just makes more things work. And I know Don has done a great job of making CTFE work with more and more diverse bits of D code.
So are you saying in part that we're getting past the point where things are being dropped or deprecated, or and changes that will break code? And so it sounds like some of the things you're talking about are beneath the covers, or just improving the provability and things like that. So if we are past that point where we're concerned about what worked a year ago isn't working anymore, would you consider saying that it's not in alpha anymore and make that public?
Well, it's never worked on the alpha processor. I'm not sure what you're talking about.
That was humor, wasn't it?
Well, was it? So Chuck, all right, so just to add a bit to what Walter said and also answer a question in one shot. Don't forget that a lot of your question is a matter of perception. And perception is already going to trail back reality a bit in matters like this. Like think of things like D's reputation. No, D'(S) reputation, not D's reputation. So in terms of reputation of D, it's been, for a while, it's been like, well, it's unstable. It's, code that used to work breaks. Code that used to be broken works, and things like that. And we have worked very hard on improving quality, and that has been really a huge focus of ours, and we've done like incredible strides. Before that, just to put this a bit in historical context, if you wish, there's been a huge debate about D1 versus D2, Tango versus Phobos, and all of that stuff. And for about 1 year after the matter has been definitely settled, people were still asking, what's the deal with, Phobos and Tango? What's going on there? What's that whole strife about? So it took 1 year for the perception to match the actual technical reality, which was like the two libraries can now work together, and there's a port of Tango to D2 and all of those good things. So a lot of good things do happen and have happened, but it simply takes the trailing edge of public perception is just by definition slow. Now, with regard to stability, our belief is that at this point, D is largely feature complete. Meaning no major feature is gonna add huge expressiveness to D, or there's no major breakage that we see in the future. That being said, it's going to take some time, because by definition, people are going to say, well, D is stable when it's been stable for 6 months back from today, right? And that's not yet the case. But I think we're going to be much more, it's going to be much more visibly stable 6 months from now, for example. So we're definitely looking at stabilizing things. We do want to make code that is broken kind of be hard broken, so to say, can reject it statically. We want to make code that should work but can't for a variety of technical reasons. We should make it work. And we think stability is a huge thing at this point. We think we're already on the road to it, but I agree that at this point it's difficult to kind of make the case that the public perception is already aligned.
And the only reason I bring this up is because I'm trying to, help in the acceptance of it. And it's the perception that I'm talking about. These are still the reasons why people in my area say, I won't use D. But I totally agree with you. I think it's approaching a very stable state, and I think you're doing a great job.
We've also put a huge priority on, at the release states, eliminating regressions. But that also relies on people trying out the betas, because sometimes we'll release a beta, do an actual release, and then people find their regressions. And this is rather frustrating, because we didn't want to put that release out with a regression like that, but we didn't know about it because the beta wasn't tried. So I strongly encourage people who have larger projects or critical projects to try out the betas before the release, so we can make sure that we don't break your code.
Something that mitigates those breakages would be automatic tools to go in your source code and make those changes, or at least inform you of those changes. I think in the Go language you have tools like that help you upgrade your code to. So that would actually really mitigate most of the use cases. The only cases where that would be a problem would be libraries over which you have no control because it's already precompiled.
Go ahead.
Well, even when we change the way the language works, or the library works, we have the deprecated thing, and we try to put in the deprecation message what you got to do to change your code. Okay, but if the regression or the breaking things is due to a bug we introduced, it's hard to automate a fix for that. We just have to fix the compiler. So, does that answer your question, or did I misunderstand?
So, for example, there was a recent change where you have to put override, and so that could typically be done automatically by the compiler. The compiler has full knowledge of that this method should have been overridden, and so there's no reason why it wouldn't, modify the code, or at least ask for permission to automatically modify that code. That would really mitigate most of the concerns.
Okay, there currently is no plan to write a tool to automatically change code, but we do strive to, in the deprecation message, to say exactly how the code needs to be changed. So it shouldn't be a mystery how to change it. It should be pretty specific. You got to add an override keyword here.
Yeah. I think my attitude with regard to automatic sort of upgrade your code tools. Did I say something surprising? Okay. Like, no problem. I know, I'm a surprising guy. So, we're neutral with regard to that. We've done, for example, a lot of name changes about a year ago. We've done like is dear from all lowercase to capital D, camel case, all that good stuff. Jonathan is here; he could attest to that. But hey, you've all met Jonathan Davis, Jonathan M. Davis. There he is, awesome man. All right. So we've done a lot of trivial changes, which could arguably be very easily handled by such a tool. When I think of the majority of changes incompatible changes we've made to the language, I would argue that it's difficult to have a tool automatically catch those because they are too far-reaching, and there's no easy and automated way to deal with such. That being said, I do think there's an important category of evolution changes that could be caught by an automatic tool. I would personally encourage people to work on that. I would participate to that if somebody would want to champion, take the torch and move forward with it. So we're open to this.
Yes, my opinion is language-wise, I think we are at the point where such a tool doesn't really buy us much. But of course, because there aren't really any big language changes coming up, really. We talked about this dinner 2 days ago or something. But there is a use case where it would certainly be very helpful, and this is like for library version migration in general. So not just for the core language and focus, but if you could build like this general tool for refactoring, like I think Google has been trying based on Clang for the C++ code, this would certainly be interesting, I think. But it would be like initially decoupled from the core language evolution.
Well, I'm really bummed that people who are seeing the recording are not seeing this. So there's this guy, like next to this other guy, and he's talking on the microphone in his ear, which is kind of cool. Love it. All right. Yes. Benjamin.
With regards to your comment on having for like libraries, it occurs to me that you could quite easily do something like, hey, I want to rename this method. So you put in a new method, you have an alias of the old name to the new name, and put an attribute on that, and then be able to have a flag you stick on the compiler and say, hey, run the code everywhere you see this alias, generate a sed rule that updates it to that, and
we do that. If that's we do that. I mean, we do have deprecated aliases for things. Is there something more that?
I was thinking you just have the compiler automatically generate a sed script that run this on your program and you'll be fine.
Okay, so maybe the deprecated message could actually include a little bash script that does everything. No change in the compiler. Awesome.
Yeah.
It just makes me nervous, the idea of the compiler changing the source code.
Oh, no.
You're writing a script that suggests, why don't you run this? Yeah, that makes sense. I think it's sensible.
You're always assuming that people use Linux.
What? You can't read sed just by eye? Another question, though, totally unrelated. How accurate and complete is the written specification for D right now? I mean, if you wanted to do a Chinese wall implementation of D, I'm not touching DMD or anything derived from it, how accurately could you implement D?
I would guess, and this is a guess, 80%.
there's this joke by Obama. He said, the Bush library is out there, it has been built, and the Obama library is a huge sign saying it was his fault. Similarly, one major contributor to D, Timon Gare, is in the process of writing a sort of a Chinese wall, kind of, completely independent parser and semantic analyzer for D. And Timon has found a number of issues with the current definition of the language, and he has been working on a number of bug reports against the specification that are going to improve it and make it better. My understanding, and I would be destroyed on a news group, is that we're in better shape than 80%. I think we're in better shape than many other popular languages that have not been standardized or are not controlled by a large corporation. So I would say we are okay and should be better in that regard. I'm not very worried that we have an incomplete specification. I think definitely we need to improve it though.
And I also strongly suggest that anyone who discovers a discrepancy between the implementation and the documentation, please file a Bugzilla report on them. Because then people who are interested in working on the documentation can just run through the Bugzilla, look for anything with the keyword doc, for the documentation issues, and can fix them then.
So, Andre,
Brad.
that's the grammar that's that complete, not the spec. The spec has to include semantics.
No, it's the spec. So there's one separate effort about the whole grammar parser generator, and there's an effort that a few people know about actually, which is a full semantic analyzer. And Timon did find issues. I don't think they're very numerous. Yes, Amaury.
So yeah, I'm working also on this Chinese wall decompiler. It's not the same as Timon's, but I have a lot of discussion with Timon's. It's because we have the same issue, so we discuss them. To take a concrete example, one of them is the Transitivity Delegate, as we were talking earlier. For us, there is no point in implementing the current behavior of DMD because it's broken. And this is very difficult for us to choose what to do in this kind of situation because we cannot respect what DMD does because it's broken, and there is no clear decision in which direction we can go. And personally, I'm afraid that we risk to reproduce the event like D1 versus D2 or Tango versus Phobos with this kind of stuff, and this is very damaging for D. This is something we shouldn't reproduce. So,
well, the way I see this is this is the time to unite, definitely. So if there's, I think it's very difficult to argue that well, this particular behavior is broken. It's a concrete fact, right? It's there, right? It is broken. As long as it's broken, nobody's going to contest that. And once we understand the issue, we're going to work on a solution to it. So again, I see this as an opportunity to unite efforts and to kind of work together on good semantics, on a useful semantics, and just plow through it, just do it.
I actually wrote a DEEP about that.
Come again?
I wrote a DEEP, or DIP, I don't know.
The improvement proposal. Yep.
Exactly.
Well, I'd like to amplify on that. We've already had some great discussions last night on fixing the RValue reference problem, which is, turning up to be a serious problem that we've got to fix sooner. And, we've got some several competing ideas, and having us all together here, the people who are interested in that particular topic is great for getting that problem fixed and nailed. And I really want to get that thing nailed before we leave the conference.
Ben?
So you reviewed and I committed official D support for Facebook's backend build framework in September of 2010. When will we see the first commit from you in the D language in Facebook's backend infrastructure?
When are we going to see my first commit? we are having plans about introducing D at Facebook that are entirely grassroots, so I can talk about them. There's nothing secret. So there's been a lot of discussion. There's a lot of cultural, context surrounding this whole matter. Essentially, my thought is the matter, I shouldn't be the one committing the first D code into Facebook's code base. I think it should be someone else, and I should be approving it.
I committed Hello World, so that's the first one. You can do the next one.
No, it's not answer that. First, meaningful. There's discussions, and the sheer fact that it came up in a one-on-one with my manager, well, what's the deal with this D programming language that you want to work on? So the sheer fact that it's percolating and there's more discussion about it is definitely encouraging. So stars are definitely starting to align here, and there's a lot of people inside Facebook, including yourself, who are passionate about D, who believe D does have a place. I'm seeing a number of people right here from Facebook, so this is most encouraging. And I do believe D and Facebook would be a great fit, because D is about a lot of things that Facebook is in terms of fast infrastructure, fast cycle development, like cranking a lot of code real quick, iteration, and hacking for fun, and all of these good things. I think it would be a very good marriage. In that regard, by the way, if anyone wants to join me in destroying Facebook with D, just talk me up. Talk to me about it. I'd be happy to have any talented people join me at Facebook to work on this. Oh, I didn't mean this to be the last thing.
So I guess kind of on this thread, and probably a lot of people here aren't able to use D at their daytime jobs. You work at like I do, a big company that's maybe got a white knuckle grip on C++, and like I always think about how to kind of shift things towards D. And kind of a big issue is maybe like interoperability with C++, like existing C++ code base. So can you say anything more about making inroads at Facebook? Are you thinking more of like, all right, brand new systems are going to be written in D, or are you thinking about interoperability with C++?
Well, I'll just take this for a second. I know I'm talking too much right now, but just in a second. In particular, for my efforts, the way I see it is you gotta cooperate. I don't see it as a kind of separate effort and you gotta rewrite your code in D. It's gonna have to interoperate with C++ and with PHP. I'm not kidding. I wish I was kidding, but that's another matter entirely. Whatever D effort we make inside corporation that has a large existing code base, I think my belief is that the best approach is to seamlessly integrate with existing infrastructure, existing code. And by that I mean things like interoperation with C++, interoperation with other languages interpreted or compiled that company is using. I'm talking about integrating with the service architecture the company is using. In our case, it would be Thrift. In Google's case, it would be, what's the name? Protocol buffers. Maybe there's still companies using other like ancient architectures for services. So I believe sort of integrate and play well with all other languages would be the best approach. These put in a particularly good position regarding that for two reasons. Reason number one, Manu has talked about it, is it's incredibly easy to generate boilerplate with D for C++ or other languages from mixins. It's incredibly easy to just have the boilerplate. One line takes care of connecting with whatever. PyD has shown that in spades. And yeah, there's been a recent effort to kind of take that off, dust it off, and restart the whole connection between Python and D. I've been tossing this idea with a couple of coworkers here at Facebook. It would not be at all a difficult effort to make D interoperable with PHP in a surprisingly nice way. Also, D has the same memory model as C, which so it's kind of a world of good in that. So all other languages are going to have an interface with C if they're serious about it. And then, therefore, that D connects to that world seamlessly is a huge asset. So to answer your question in brief, I think sort of, cooperate, interoperate, be nice to everybody else, and it's going to be great. Walter, do you have anything to add?
I think Manu has been showing us all how to do it, how to interoperate with C++.
How to not do it, actually.
Jesus? Yes.
What's building adoption of debug in services for me is the lack of asynchronous IO or a story around asynchronous IO, where Node.js and C# have a very nice story around it. They build it in basically. So is there a discussion going about having similar, maybe syntactical sugar for asynchronous IO?
Well, so async IO is so you think of things like C#. What C# is doing with
the async await, for example.
Right, async await.
I think that, well, for me, that's the nicest effort out there.
Right.
Node.js has the whole callback thing.
Right. So we've been at the conference on programming languages, Walter and I, and we've sat through the whole C# async await dog and pony show, and to be honest, we loved it. We thought it's great. We thought it's a good thing. We understood how it works. And at the end of the talk, we were like, nudging each other, like, you got to do this. And it can't be done except in the compiler. So the compiler must know about it. It's not a library trick. That being said, there's so much stuff to do, so little time, as the poet says, that there's no immediate plans right now. Until then, so until that train arrives, there's a lot of library space kind of work that can be done. And there's a VibeD project, which is a large project targeted at asynchronous services and such. I would recommend using it. And there's this whole lib event. Let's have an event loop in a library, and that should help a lot. So let's say I'm looking forward to kind of getting further on this. I don't think the language changes in terms of async await are going to come very soon, but I do think the library situation is burgeoning. Things are happening there. Anything?
Pretty much I agree. We love async await. I think it's a home run, the guys who developed that. And the only thing stopping us from doing it is all the other work we got to do on it. Like we got to solve the RValue reference problem. We want to nail all that stuff down and then go look at async await and getting it to work. So, it's 2 thumbs up on that feature.
So we have like 2 minutes. Probably we can take 1 or 2 questions.
Yeah, it's just an addition actually to this question. I was wondering what exactly is holding you back, because if you look at Node.js, there's absolutely no language support. I mean, you could do Node.js in D. We have delegates, and you could like one-to-one map it to D. I predict that nobody would actually want to use it, but that's a different story. As far as Vibe goes, I don't know if you have had a look at it already. It's fiber-based, so it probably hides away the complexity, which can be a good thing, can be a bad thing. But all in all, I just wanted to say that I don't think language features are actually necessary. I mean, maybe await. I mean, it's a beautiful thing. I've looked at it myself, but the C# async await. But I don't think it's a prerequisite in any kind of form to come up with a good library solution. And if we have this, then we can talk about what we need or what we don't need for language, for the language part.
Okay, we can continue this offline. It should be interesting. Leandro.
Yeah. You mentioned just a minute ago.
I don't think the mic is working.
Oh, yep.
Thanks.
Yeah, Walter mentioned a couple of minutes ago that people should try to use the alpha version more and to try it. Is there any reason not to try to make it more publicly available, like making like a release, saying it's a preview, maybe adding some version number, like release candidate 1, 2, 3, or whatever? I feel like right now it's really hard. You have to know the list exists, subscribe to the list, then when these alphas are released, they are released one after the other without any kind of indication if it's the first iteration, the second iteration, or what. So I wonder if, I thought that was a strategic decision, but if you think they should be used more, maybe we should make it more publicly available.
Well, it is publicly available. I suppose that I thought that the people who are interested in it subscribe to the DMD-beta mailing list, but obviously that's insufficient. I think we should probably announce it on the d.announce news group.
Yeah, I too think you said it may have been a strategic decision. These are big words for something we didn't really think through. It was a strategic, like not decision, a lack of decision. I think it's a great idea. So just the short answer is I think it's a great idea. Somebody could please just submit an issue, a bug report right now from your laptop and say, you know what, we should publicize the betas on the download page. If you care about betas, here they are. Like, this is not the most prominent, like this is the release. And here are the betas somewhere, we can figure out a web page design that would fit. And essentially just make them more prominent, more visible. I don't think the beta list has all the subscribers that may be interested because a lot of them just simply don't know. So that's the short answer. We are kind of running out of time. Okay, 2 more questions and real quick. If they get yes or no answers, we will give yes or no answers. Benjamin.
Not a question, but a comment.
Oh, no.
One way you could improve distribution of the betas is to simply have them available from a fixed address, be it a particular Git repository or a particular HTTP address. Is just download from here every 24 hours and build, and when we're about to release, you'll break.
Okay. Fixed address 0x8004804. That's the fixed address, the pointer. Yes, Vladimir.
Not a question, but I was thinking that we already have a testing infrastructure which builds the compiler from Git and on a variety of platforms. I was thinking maybe we could adapt that to also create nightly builds. So as an idea.
No, I think it's a great idea.
And in fact, that's on the plate to get done with the auto tester.
All right.
And in fact, anyone who wants to do a pull request to add that to it is welcome to help.
All right, I have bad news and I have good news. The bad news is clock says 0, 0, 0. The good news is we are getting hammered because it's happy hour time, right? It's sponsored by my own group at Facebook, Hip Hop. We're doing this whole systems PHP JIT compiler. So we're going to be here. There's going to be drinks. There's going to be food. And let's have fun until like 7 o'clock. Awesome. Drivers. We don't provide drivers. So get your own drivers and hammers and whatnot. Okay. Thank you.